Okay, so I guess we can go. I'm very honored and very thankful that I'm sitting here and moderating this panel with three amazing gentlemen from across the borders and with my fellow Albanian here, a founder. I'm here with Howard Monk, drummer, booking agent and founder. I'm Colin Steven, journalist and press founder. And Tom Pasanek, if I'm right, sales and marketing executive from Mix Mag, right?
Yeah, more or less. Actually, I'm a managing director, but it's okay. I do
Yeah.
also sales as well.
We do a lot of jobs nowadays.
My life I'm selling, so it's okay.
Yeah. And here's John Proda, is a new publication. So from when I was young or a little, music has always been dictated by press and different publication on how is it perceived and how it is understood. But nowadays, with social media and a lot of different actors in media businesses, this perception is different nowadays. So my simple question, to simplify it, is if an artist releases a track today, who gives it meaning, not just visibility? The media or social media? Whoever can start first.
I'm going to go first because I'm technically not a journalist, but I would say that the artist is in control as possible, and they can be much more today than they are aware of, and so on. So you said I'm a drummer and blah blah blah. I'm a co-founder of a thing called MetaGen, which puts the artist's information in their pocket. And so let's say everybody in the room, we write a song together now, we can start the generation of its metadata in the very moment that it begins, and it remains our truth, and it's not going to be changed by a label X or publisher Y. So that's number one. And I think also all the mood music around the stories are at the moment, Spotify want rich metadata. The DSPs want the artists to have clean, rich metadata. So that is number one. Number two is the channels are not as prevalent as they used to be for if we release that track for people to write about them. There are people, good people, starting new print publications, and we've got more to talk about. But I'll give an example. I'm working with a Danish artist right now. She is not a complete unknown, but she's just released a new track. And we pretty much wrote the press release, which became the article that was published on a dozen blogs. So there are some bots or lazy journalists who are doing the work, but I think that is the entry level. I think beyond that first step, you get to people who are interested and who start to write and take a great interest in the work. I don't think the work has necessarily changed. It's still the same process. I just think that there's many more different avenues.
My next question, so we can discuss further, is do still journalists nowadays still shape taste, or they just respond to it?
No, journalists still. I mean, I think if you're starting out, it can be quite difficult, it can be quite challenging. But I think a senior writer, an established writer, still can shape music. Maybe not quite like they used to, but they still got a lot of power.
Yeah, so I have a comment regarding that. So maybe in United Kingdom and let's say Western Europe is a little bit different, but still in a region that we are covering, which is Croatia, Serbia, Slovenia, and all those ex-Yugoslavian countries, is still the narrative is in favor of the local media and press and even the radio. It's incredible how radio is still very popular over there. It's totally insane, you know. And why I think is that? I think it's because still algorithm is picking up big names, and in the region we don't have such a worldwide superstars, right? So the algorithm is really tough to beat it unless you have tons of money to push it out. So in our region, we still rely on the proper journalists, on proper work from the journalists, the media that's taking care of the artists as well, like us. So that's we saw the opportunity that we need to do something as well on that point. And also, we are not neglecting the social media, and we are, let's say, spending 70% of our effort on social media because it's inevitable, and you cannot avoid including AI and all that stuff. But still, I think we still have a power as a local media outlet in terms of promoting artists, labels, music, and whatever not, right? You know, and in a bunch of mess and noise on internet, it's really hard for the average listener to figure it out what's good and what's not, because the algorithm is pushing what's cool right now, and cool doesn't mean good or quality.
So we still shape taste, I guess.
Yeah, I think we do. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think we're focusing a lot now on short form content. The way the social media has gone, and it's great. I mean, we're all guilty of enjoying it, but I think there's still a lot to be said for long form, whether that be in print or online. You know, proper, 3,000, kind of deep dives. And people, at the heart of it, we love stories, don't we? And we still need storytellers.
And what about you as a new publication? How do you find balance in writing about what the audience wants and what do you think the audience needs?
Well, to be quite honest, even from my past releases, even the next one which are coming, I can tell you that what is necessary is more the story behind the artist, the story behind every release. I've had a quite recent interview with an artist which I asked her about her releases, her tracks, but I saw that her attention was more on who she was. So I believe that his overall as journalist, music to keep that space safe, let's say. So algorithm decides basically what gets heard, what gets played, what goes viral. The point is that is the role of the journalism to describe what's the story behind it.
Behind the song or behind the
Behind
life
the
of
song
the
as
artist?
much as behind the artist. We focus mainly on the artist, to be quite honest. Was the point was the struggles, the exact moment in which an artist believes that he's not quite good enough to reach a dream because the algorithms kills the virality, So I have decided to focus my project exactly on what's the point behind this artist, more even to convince the other ones that it's not quite impossible to reach a certain level. So about that, I mean, my project answers quite part of these discussions, as I believe that stories need to be told instead of being discovered.
So what's the difference between being recommended and being written about? Yeah, kan je pakken?
I don't think one would happen in isolation. I think that they all, being recommended and being written about is the best situation. And then also having a nod from a recommendation from another artist. So I do think that journalists are still tastemakers, but I feel like a review or a preview for a gig doesn't sell tickets in the same way as it used to 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. So you need to have it all. And the artist, so as a promoter, you're looking at, if I was still a full-time promoter all the time, you would really be looking at, okay, who's the agent, who's the manager, who's promoting it, what's the label, what is the full story? And you were talking about who's telling the story. Well, it's a village, isn't it? It takes a whole team of people, an internal team and external team, to be telling that story. And again, if something really kicks off, on social media, then that's always a good thing. But loads of publications have social media, don't they?
Yeah, it's a primary way to get eyeballs on their content.
Do you have something to add?
Yeah, I mean, we have one big problem in the region, which is we have a bunch of talented artists, and nobody speaks about them. So, you know, I mean, without the good storytelling, nobody knows about them. That's the problem, you know. They are not big and strong enough to reach that level by themselves. So when I started with Mix Magadria in 2019, my goal was, I'm an artist as well, by the way, and I have a record label for 20 years. This year is going to be 20 years. I'm producing for 30 years. I have over 400 records released on all the major house music labels. But what I figured out that my goal and my personal satisfaction is to help the new people, new guys, to not go through what I went through to get there, right? So I think, you know, we are not doing this for the money. It sounds funny these days that you don't, I mean, it's all the, you know, like I would call it a charity work. And you know, and it actually it is, right? Because it's impossible to charge what you do. But I think I'm looking at the greater picture. One day I'll die and something will stay behind me, you know, some kind of a legacy. That's how I see it. That's why I started making music. So to cut the long story short, I think this region deserves to have outlet like Mix Magadria, and I think this region deserves much more attention that it got until now. You know, we have brilliant producers, brilliant artists, but they don't have knowledge, or at least they don't have teams that can help them out to raise them up. So in the whole region, which is like 25 million people, like 7 countries or 8 countries, don't get me wrong, including Albania, so we don't have a proper management that can take care of the electronic music artist and bring him to UK, to US, or no matter what. So in order to succeed, you need to have, first you need to have a local outlets that will help you out with the marketing and with the media, and that's where we see ourselves, because local media doesn't care about the electronic music. So you need to be specialized for that kind of stuff. And the other thing is to push somehow that artist to move to London or to Amsterdam and then try by himself. But I think the kickstart and the base should be a Mix Mag for this region, and then at least we can try to help these guys, you know. And that's the only way. And because all that talent makes no sense unless people don't know about it.
But what does a journalist see in an artist that algorithm doesn't?
I don't know how to answer to that.
I guess I'm doing tough questions, right?
It's a tough question. It's a really complex question. I don't think I have an answer for that.
Really? Maybe 2 gentlemen have one?
What does a journalist have that an algorithm doesn't?
We can say that.
But
I mean,
I wanted
what do we
to
see as a journalist that algorithm doesn't see it? What can we see in an artist?
There's two that I spoke to somebody just a few minutes ago about this very thing. I'm really good friends with a very famous record producer, and we had a situation like this, where he was being asked questions, and the people in the audience were asking him questions, and there was one lady who was really provocative, and she wanted to really push his buttons, and she says, okay, so in these days I can make a record in my bedroom. What does that mean? Why does that not mean you are now obsolete? This is a guy who's won an Oscar, by the way, and multiple Grammys, and he just sort of unpicked it he just said, look, when I'm face to face in a room with a singer and she's trying to hit the high notes, I can advise her to just bend her knees in the millisecond before she's aiming to hit the high note. And there's so many million more examples of the detail that human beings can see between one another that an algorithm is never going to be able to do, right?
That definitely.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't get the question when you were asking, so now I get it. So I think we have an answer, and I agree absolutely with you. With algorithm, there's no magic. And these days, I think the magic is more important than ever. I mean,
imperfection, right?
Exactly, exactly. I mean, you have Suna and you have other tools you can click and, I mean, sounds like you can click and it's done, but it's not like that. But anyhow, um, maybe I'm old school, but I'm also part of the digital world as well because I used to work for a big IT corp and I'm kind of a geek and nerd and I like technology and I always like to try new hardware and software as well. But I still think that what we are missing more than ever is a human connection, human touch, like face to face. And that's why we are trying to, you know, whatever we can to connect with our artists, with people that are trying to, you know, make something like organizers, you know, whatever, whoever is creative, we are trying to be close to them, part of that thing. I think that's the point of life in the end, you know.
Yeah,
Human connection.
Unless we're going to have a Skynet, Terminator 2, and voila, you know.
I mean, a good journalist will build their own networks. They'll have relationships, and they kind of bring them into play when they're writing a feature. And that human touch, like you just said, is so important as a journalist. An algorithm can only really recommend something that you've already liked. It can just recommend more of that. It doesn't have that deep understanding.
And I've started to really believe recently that I can actually visualize and envision post-social media world, especially since much of what we see on social media is AI-generated just bullshit these days anyway. I hope rather than I think or believe, but that everybody's turning their backs on it, and then we will go back. It sounds daft, but there was a time when it was much nicer. It was much better. There were loads of zines. There were loads of people at every gig, and you didn't have to sort of do all this additional bullshit. I sound a bit stupid now.
It sounds like we are like too old and discussing what's going to happen in the future, but you know, it's not like that. Actually, we embrace the future, but we want still to keep the humanity and human touch and human connections and all that
Something
stuff.
you said,
Not just zeros and ones,
before.
you know.
I liked something you said before, like we're, as journalists, are becoming like for charity, like writing about artists. But do you think we as journalists are becoming more as curators, historians, or marketers?
Look, it's up to the journalist. You have journalists who are just doing like every day hundreds of articles just like automatically using AI and all this stuff. Those are, you cannot call them journalists, but you have proper people that are like really putting an effort and doing research and all this stuff about artists and then write about some, you know, a topic or that. So
I think anybody in the creative world these days is a content creator as well.
yeah.
Not just journalists, musicians, photographers. Everybody has to market themselves and use social media to their own benefit. So it's not just journalists in isolation.
So we've got to be a blend of three, like historians, marketers, and curators, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are people who are storytelling coaches and experts, though, aren't there, these days? That's an industry in itself. Some of the best artists that you know are just amazing storytellers, aren't they?
But some journalists as well can use Instagram or TikTok as a platform for their journalism and be creative with it. So, you know, rather than being on a website or, you know, in a zine, like I say, they're actually using the platform to be creative with their journalism, which is a lot to be said for that as well. It's not, you know, anti-social media.
All right. You, John?
I can absolutely agree with Mixmag what he said. Like, it depends on the journalist, on if he is a marketer or promoter or just a journalist. I mean, to be quite honest, from my point of view, as I said before, I would like to focus more on who's the artist instead of what the artists have done. And to make that happen, you need to have a human connection, which algorithm reach, under my opinion, under my idea. I mean, algorithm can decide what you see, what you hear, what you basically read, but that human connection, that touch of human connection is something that makes you feel absolutely rich as a journalist.
When you decide to cover an artist, what matters most, the cultural relevance or momentum?
Under my opinion, the story behind it, the struggles, the hard moments that he suffered to arrive at that point that where he is today. I mean, the story of life is the most important one about an artist.
How often do you sleep in showbiz? Writing? how often do you sleep in showbiz, like gossip and stuff, when you write about an artist? Since you like depend your articles more in his or her personal life or the life behind.
So the question is, how much do I?
Yeah.
So basically, we do one article per month.
One per month.
One per month.
Okay.
We receive basically daily at least 7 requests, different ones. Most of them disappear because we do not answer, but we receive their biographies. By the way, we read their biographies to understand who the artist is, first of all, which have been the key moments. Then I mean, I am not a journalist, to be quite honest. I have journalists which works in my project themselves, and basically you receive a lot of stories all together, which you want or not want. It makes you absolutely rich inside. Different point of views, different moments that they have lived before arriving with you.
Let's say profiles.
Exactly. Basically, yes.
I'd like to know your point of view about this. Like when you decide to cover an artist, what affects you more, his cultural relevance of its work or momentum, like the stardom he or she is in the moment?
So for us is our team is like a bunch of music enthusiasts, producers, DJs, label owners. So it's kind of like all in the family. So we're always looking who's doing the biggest noise and making great music. So for us, quality is number one thing. We would not touch the artists that are like artificially there, right? Like just because they bought followers or something like that. So we are watching carefully those new crews. Now we have a bunch of new kids that are creating the crews, especially in the hard techno scene, you know, and I'm not fan of that scene, but it's the scene, and the new kids are like totally into it, and it's growing like hell, so we need to cover it, and we have like a specialist for that, so we need to cover that. So those are kids like 16, 17 years old, and they're like, maybe now they're hard techno, but maybe in 7 years they're gonna be like deep house, tech house, whatever, right? So I was when I was a kid, when I was 14 years old, I produced shitty dance music from 90s, right? But then I went through evolution, and so I think everybody deserves the chance. But number one priority is definitely quality, you know.
Yeah, because your reputation's at stake, isn't it? Like I saying, if you cover something that doesn't deserve to,
Yeah.
and they can see right through it, like I saying, so your reputation's everything.
I worked really hard to build a really good reputation as a promoter, and I developed relationships with this agent and that agent and the next agent. And whenever I agreed to promote an artist for a concert, just for one show, and I wasn't 100% behind the artist, then it never really worked out. It never worked out. So I don't think I'm sitting there thinking, do they have a lot of relevance, or are they culturally important or whatever? I just think, does this move me in some way? And that is, of course, very subjective. But I think that in some ways we get involved in this because at some point in our childhoods, probably, we just wanted everybody to share the music that we wanted listening. I always wanted to, my older brother, I always listened to Motorhead and AC/DC from him. And I wanted him to hear some of the music that I was listening to. And I still do it to this day, and he never listens, you know. Yeah. You kind of become... I once sat and had lunch with a guy, and he was a manager, and I said I was complaining about losing some money on a show, and he said, yeah, but you don't do it for the money, Howard, do you? And I was like, what? He said, it's a calling. You don't have a choice, really. This is something that you actually do, and irrespective of the money. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
No?
I thought you had something to add.
I'm just waiting, holding the mic.
Relationships between artists and media has always been like in tremors. Like there has always been place of discussion. So what do you think an artist? What are the mistakes the artists do nowadays in relation with media?
So I can tell for our region, so we have one big problem. The artists are very passive. So they are waiting to be discovered, which is totally crazy these days, you know. Whenever we push like an advertisement, if you have a proper record or whatever, send us an email or at least something. Hi, I'm this and that. Can you please take a listen? They're even lazy to do that. That's my only negative thing I have about the region. Guys are so passive. Not guys, the girls. Each and every artist, not just in electronic music, in all kind of music. So, but it's all because we are missing the infrastructure of having a proper management companies, proper publicists, proper, you know, media outlets in terms of media outlets that are taking care of the music. And actually, we live in the world where the music is a side thing for something visual, right? So it's not number one priority thing for new kids or new people or interests. So they like to see first visual stuff, and if they like it, they're going to take care of music. They're going to listen to music. So before, back in the days, it was music first, and then if the visual is good, that's win-win. Now you have to look like you're coming from the spaceship, you know, and I don't know, wearing a horse hat or mask or playing stupid stuff on a stage to be, you know, noticed, you know. So, you know, so I went too far with my answer, but
Yeah.
actually what I wanted to say, we would like to invite everybody to let us know what they were been working on and what they have to be released, and then we can start from that point, yeah.
No, I was going to say there's a lot to be said for being proactive in this industry. I mean, as a book publisher, it's one of the main things I look for in a writer. Like I said, how easy, and that same goes for artists and journalists for that matter as well. You should be like going out there, expanding your network, not just for journalists, but journalists included, and building relationships, cultivating, like I say, relationships with journalists and media, and getting out there and, you know, yeah, just getting stuck in.
I do a blog. You are welcome to go and look at it. It's Substack. I'm currently doing an A to Z of bands or artists that I worked with as a promoter who should be gigantic, but who are not. And I'm finding it quite fascinating, but to do it. But a few years ago, I wrote a blog actually saying that really good artists are often to blame for the fact that we have some really average artists who are successful. Because if you're really, really good, often there's perhaps an arrogance that you think, I'm going to be discovered now. But that's what maybe it comes across as arrogance, but in fact it might be that they're really timid and really shy, and all they've ever done is focus on their music, and their social skills or promotional skills, they just don't have them. So they don't have a publicist, they don't have... So Mixmag has not written about them because they don't know about them. How can they?
It's impossible to figure out who's doing what.
Yeah, and so as a result, I mean, I'm sure we could all name half a dozen artists each that were like, how is that even popular?
Yeah,
But
sometimes who ever shout the loudest, isn't it?
It's popular because they were really good at all the shiny stuff, all the promotion stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it makes, if you receive 10 emails from one person and then 0 emails from another one, so even though maybe the music is bad, but you're gonna have it in your head, you know. So maybe next time, on the 11th email is gonna be something great, right? But he was persistent and he was sending emails to us all the time. Guys, can you please take a listen?
Yeah, that counts.
Yeah, and while on the other hand, you have a producer making music at home and he's brilliant. Maybe he's having some great releases, but he doesn't want to send the email to us or send a message, DM on Instagram if he's a younger guy, right? So it's just need to be, guys, you guys need to be proactive. I mean, that's the key thing, and persistence. Without that, nothing happens overnight, nothing. When you see such a big success, so-called overnight success, that it took 10 years to become an overnight success, not 2 weeks. So, well,
Does media still have the power to make or break an artist nowadays?
I probably still do, but not like they used to. Not like they used to. The power they had in the gatekeepers era, you know, when they really new genre names, you know, they could the power of the front cover, you know, to get behind somebody. I think those days have gone. But yeah, there's always exceptions to every rule, isn't there? So I would say it's gone, but certainly the power is diminished.
Again, they'd be part of a team. The front cover will happen at the same time as something happens on the radio, as something becomes the music that is being played on the Champions League that week, etc., etc. It's always at that level to be made or broken.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the guys. So
The funniest thing I think these days, Mixmag in the UK do this. I don't know if you do it, and RA still does it, but they do the digital cover. Yeah. You know, it's like the power of the cover still is relevant. You know, and they do this digital cover thing, which is like it's the internet guys. You know, it's like you don't have a cover, but the power, the just perceived value of having a cover or giving you the cover. You know, it's like still got cachet.
The bad thing about these panels is the time goes so fast, and we are at the end of our discussion, but I have two simple questions for each one of you. The first one is, can you state one thing a journalist must protect in 5 years?
Must what, 5 years?
One thing we as journalists or journalism has to protect in 5 years, in the upcoming 5 years. One thing.
Integrity.
Okay.
Yeah, like saying, simple as that. Like saying, if you don't write about what you believe in, you know, people can see right through you. I mean, there's not much money. There never was much money in journalism, and there's even less now. But if you're not writing from the heart and writing, you know, if you're getting, you know, like a sales thing, it's just forget it. You know, you've still got to write with integrity.
absolutely integrity. Yeah.
Integrity, I guess.
Yeah, get some integrity for some of them. Not keep it, get some.
About the protection, I believe, God say, culture itself. Who you promote, who has been, what so far in the music history that person has done, culture itself, culture.
And one thing journalism must let go. Okay, you can say two.
It's not something, it's kind of retaining as well, but I once spoke to a leading journalist who is now still an editorial level at a big magazine, and he used to write about my band when we were in the NME and stuff, and he talked about a band that he didn't write about because he didn't really like them. And he said he didn't want to write some negative stuff about this band. And this band is a big band now as well. But I remember going home that night, scratching my head, thinking, why are you doing what you're doing? And you should be able to write, you know, you still get a film critic will write a bad review of a movie, right? But I think that a critic should be able to criticize. And so with that requires some integrity, some authenticity. It requires a confidence in yourself to be able to sort of say, I get this, I understand it, but I don't really like it for these reasons or whatever. You know, it's only a rare occasion these days when you see a really good takedown of an album or a.
Yeah, it's a fine balance between being too snarky and, you know, and being honest.
In our situation, I think they should stop worrying about what people will say when they publish the article. So not reading the critics about the article. So they need to do it from their own heart and how they see it, no matter if it's wrong or right. It needs to be true to their heart. So less, I would say. I mean, we all have the same issue. We all worries about what other people will say about us, especially on social media. So I think the whole humanity suffers from that, but yeah, I would say about the journalists as well, you know. Less worries about what people will say, because always somebody will say something negative about the article, so let's rather focus on what's good in the artist and why you write about this artist, and probably because it created some kind of emotion, and we are all looking for emotions these days, and emotion sells in the end. So basically that's it. Yeah.
So that's it, I guess. You don't have something to add?
No, I think that was a good, like, less about what people think. Yeah.
Okay, I thank you so much for your time and for your advices and for your words. I hope we can have you again next year in Muse-X. And thank you to everyone.